Krisstina Wise, welcome to the Story Engine podcast.
It is so fun to be here. You were on my podcast, I don't know, a few months back, and it was a big hit. So I'm excited to be on the other side of the microphone.
Absolutely, because you talk about one of the most important and sometimes challenging sources of stories that most of us will encounter in our lives, the stories about money. And I'm excited to explore those with you because I've gotten to experience your wisdom firsthand. But for those who haven't, will you tell us a little bit about who you are and how you're making an impact in the world today?
I'll start with a little story. And my story starts that I had started my real estate career when I was in my mid 20s, and I had big ambitions. I wanted to be a high income earner. I wanted to be rich. I wanted to be financially free. I wanted all of the things. And I was very motivated by money. And so I went on to build a really sizable firm and had a lot of success, and so much success that in the real estate industry, I was invited to speak on one of the largest, if not the largest stage in real estate, which is the most important people in the audience in real estate in the entire industry. And these are names that anybody would recognize, a big real estate tech company. So I am on the stage, I'm doing the opening keynote speech, and I had memorized the speech. I had practiced it. I mean, I put so many hours in it because if I hit this speech, like I would be a household name in the industry. So, I mean, I was hitting all my marks, felt so great. And about 3/4 of the way through this presentation, this keynote speech, and I think it was probably 45 minutes, I heard this screeching sound. And imagine the sound like a train that is just slamming on its brakes and it's screeching on the train tracks. And I heard this sound in my ear while I'm speaking on stage. And I don't know how long it lasted, but I froze. I kind of was paralyzed for a second. And I don't know, I'm guessing it was 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 max. But the audience didn't know because this was so rehearsed and I had pauses and different things built in. But finally, I caught myself and I went on and I finished the speech and I got a standing ovation. And I'm walking out the door to this big, enormous, I don't know, there's probably 2,000 or 3,000 people in this audience. And I'm walking out the door, back in the back, out of the green room, and out the front. There was a break afterwards. And people are grabbing at me and they're like, Krisstina, can I book you for this? Can I book you for that? And I mean, it was, I couldn't believe it. And in my head, I thought, Krisstina, girlfriend, you started in a trailer home. You have made it to the top of this industry. You can name your price. You can name whatever you want. You've made it, girlfriend. You've made it. I was so high on adrenaline and super excited. And I was going back to my room. And by the time I got to my room, I was basically passing out. And I had all these sensations all over my body that was something was really off. And to make a long story short, here I was at the pinnacle of my career. Again, like I couldn't go any higher at this point. And within 2 days, I was in my bed. I couldn't think. I couldn't finish a sentence. Within 7 days, I put my hands through my hair and all my hair fell out. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't eat. I couldn't drink. And I was totally falling apart. And that was beginning of the journey of what has brought me to what we're doing today. And it was this whole lesson when it came to something called money and success and achievement and always chasing kind of that rabbit, chasing that gold star and trading my health for wealth and trading my health for some ambition and some moving targets, some moving goalposts that goalpost was just always moving. So what I do today is I really teach this intersection of money and wealth creation, but also health and happiness and balance so that we know how much money is enough and we know how to create money, create wealth, and reach a place of financial freedom without having to sacrifice too much.
I think that's beautiful. And it's always difficult to tell. We're bad judges of when is too much too much. And I've heard now hundreds of stories on this podcast, and almost all of them start in the core talent. Sometimes also the best part about us is the most wounded part about us. And it allowed us to get ahead, just like what you said. And at the same time, it sabotages us and keeps us back or keeps us limited in a lot of ways. And I've seen this transmuted time and time again. And you did such a great description of that, which is the common thing I see is a lot of us entrepreneurs, we have some kind of wire crossed early on, and it's perfect for the early stages because it allows us to prove them wrong and charge harder and do the thing. And it's useful up until a certain threshold of success. And you described that point perfectly, where we have to actually change how we're relating to ourselves before we can advance. Otherwise, we just continuously create problems. For you, it was a health case. I've seen it happen in businesses. It's happened in relationships. It's happened in whatever way it needs to be loud enough to get your attention. And so for those as stubborn as entrepreneurs, well, we sometimes need some loud things. Tell me a little bit about the process from then when you had a lot of success, you have a lot of money, and everybody, you look like success, to now, where just before this call, you were telling me you were enjoying time in Italy, you were enjoying your life, you have a confidence and authority in the work that you're doing that allows you to be spacious and present in your life. What are some of the most important things that has happened since this moment and right now for you that has shaped who you are now?
Yeah, there's so many different ways to go there. When it comes to money, even with what you're talking about before, and I completely agree, is that so many of us entrepreneurs, we're very success motivated, and like you said, a lot of that. In fact, I was listening to a podcast. I don't know if it's a Bailu podcast or who it was, but in this last week or so, and they were talking about how so many like uber successful entrepreneurs, let's even say like the billionaire category, but up in those type of echelons, so many have really arrived at that type of success because they're so damaged or traumatized as children, and they really come out with this chip on their shoulder and their need to prove something. And I had that, the way I grew up, and so many things. But so many of us are formed out of some type of trauma. Sometimes it's maybe, they call it trauma with a small t or trauma with a big T. I had a lot of big T trauma growing up as a kid, and that certainly formed me and formed this desire just like that to go out and improve myself and say F you to to so much that past. But what comes with that as well, that it's like that motivation piece that can really cause us to push through, and that resiliency and the grit and the things that we need to succeed as entrepreneurs. But many times what's wrapped up in that too is a lot of money trauma. And money trauma is something that's not really talked about. Trauma is like, it's a word everybody is talking about these days, but the money trauma is not really factored in. That is how we're formed, is where our mindsets are formed, and where our whole belief set when it comes to money is usually formed out of some traumatizing type of experience, like parents always argued about money, or they divorced about money, or like my parents always fought about money, divorced about money. There were plates flying through the air because of money. Then dad left because of money. Then mom bashed dad all the time because he didn't pay child support, always about the money. And so money was just this topic that was always this bad thing. And growing up so poor, it's something I wanted a lot of, and I was willing to like go for it at any cost, because I had this belief that money will solve all my problems and life will be easier. So that's kind of the point. The first part is, when it comes to money, it's still this word that has a lot of stigma to it and a lot of emotion attached to it, and it's not talked about. And anyway, I just wanted to close that loop there, that if we're going to really succeed when it comes to money, I think it's really important to address any type of trauma that we've had, in our background with this subject. What happened during that time is that I was always chasing the next level of success. So there was no stopping point. There was no enough. And I heard another quote here recently, and it goes something like, there are those people that can't ever learn how to really start to make money. Like they just can't make enough. They can't start it. But then there's a whole other category that they can't stop, meaning they've got plenty and they can't stop. And so many of us were in either category, like we just can't get enough, or there is never enough and we can't stop. So no matter what category we're in, I think it's just really important to look at this topic and to uh, discover what are our mindsets, our limiting beliefs, and what do we need to clear up from our past to be able to have a healthy relationship with money, so that money is not the driving factor, but it's more just a part of our life that is like anything else that's healthy in our life.
I love this. And this speaks to some of what you mentioned is the holistic vision that you have. It's not just about having more money in your bank account, but how you relate to that money and how you relate to yourself. And one of the ways that you facilitate this transformation is through the Curbs program. And I was wondering if you could give us just a little overview of what that program looks like. And then I know you have a launch happening around October, and would love to hear about your goals and your vision of what you would like to achieve in that launch.
Awesome. Well, my mission in my professional life, my mission in my personal life is really to live life to its fullest, to just squeeze the full juice out. But it's really to kind of practice what I preach, if you will, is that that's my personal mission. It's just really be authentic and holistic in the way I live day to day in all the different life categories. Professionally, my mission is on this topic called money. And I just have a desire and a mission and a passion that everyone can understand money, learn money, develop a really healthy relationship with money, can talk about money, have confidence with money, know how money works, learn the fundamentals, and really just take away the parts of money that are causing anxiety or stress or fear or doubt or unwanted circumstances, and all of that's fixable. So that's what I want to do. I just want everybody to get good with money. The great thing about money is that once you learn it, it's not that difficult, but we don't take the time to learn it. And making enough money, and what I like to say is that when it comes to earnings, if we can have a goal to make like top 10% income or top maybe 15% income, and that means when we're in our working career, that we're gaining the skill sets, the business skills, the value, the whatever skills that we need to develop, that's going to be able to command a top 10% type income. And that's a journey, because making money, and especially making a 10% top 10% income, isn't easy. Only 10% of the population earn over like 150 to $200,000 a year, for example. And that's all based on skill and value and perception of value. So making money is hard enough. But what we're taught that the answer to all my money problems is to make more money. So all we do is, if we're going to invest in anything relating to money, we invest in trying to learn how to make more of it. What's misunderstood or not understood is that that's one money skill set. The other money skill set is just as hard, and that's keeping our money. But we're not educated on keeping our money. We don't understand it. And especially as entrepreneurs are like, hey, just go build, just keep building and keep adding zeros. And as long as you can add more zeros, then you're going to be fine financially. And it's just not true. There's something called Parkinson's law of money, and Parkinson's law of money says expenses will always rise to match income. And what was once a luxury becomes a necessity. And what that means is that as we earn more money, our expenses go up and the cost of our lifestyle goes up. And we don't know how to spend. And the key to getting rich is to spend less than you make. It's pretty simple. But again, we don't invest really any time or energy or money to learn how to spend. And part of spending is something called saving. And the muscle when it comes to money that most people never develop is the muscle of saving. because the only way to get rich, the only way to get financially free, the only way to create financial independence is connected to our ability to save. So that's about keeping our money, just not about earning it. So to answer your question, is that I have a school, and every October I do a class. I do it twice a year, but the timing of this is I do a money school, and we take 12 weeks to invest our learning and attention on learning about money, how much money's enough, how to earn it, how to save it, how to spend it, how to invest it, and ultimately know all of our numbers, so we know, like, hey, what are my net worth numbers? At what number will I be financially free? How much money is enough? And what are my gaps that I need to close to make sure I'm on track to become financially independent, or whatever those long-term financial goals are?
Yeah. And one of the ways that I came across you first is I saw you on a webinar. Are you going to be giving a lot of webinars and joint ventures to spread the word and fill this program?
Yeah, so I'll be doing several webinars. I'll be doing like a 5-day money challenge, and so when I have those things set up, I'll circle back around. And if anybody's listening and we want to do kind of just a money webinar with Kyle, we can definitely do that if you have a group that wants to have a money conversation. So absolutely, I'll be letting everyone know when we're going to be starting up the promotion of that. But in the meantime, I really invite anyone that's listening to follow my YouTube channel. In January of 2024, I finally made it a goal to start a YouTube channel. And I just have to say, I can be on stages of thousands of people. I can be on, podcasts and webinars like this all day long. But if the cameras, just if I have to look in the camera, just me and the camera, I'm terrified. I freeze. I do not like the camera on me at all. I don't even take selfies type of thing. So to set this goal for this YouTube channel, I've had the goal for probably a handful of years, but I've just never able to get over that fear of starting it. Of all those, even with my level of success and that and financial resources and everything that I've been able to create over my all of my life, it just goes to show that I had this one fear of video, and it kept me from doing this channel that I've been wanting to do for so long. So finally, I challenged myself and said, "Okay, Krisstina, you just need to get over this and just do it."
What do
And
you think
so
it was? What really happened right there? What made you've been doing this for years and then there was something that really changed? What influenced you?
I mean, finally, it was just me with my own self-talk of like, this is ridiculous. What are you afraid of? Like, just get over
Amazing.
it and do it.
Yeah.
So I, just finally made that decision. So start a YouTube channel, and it's growing, which is awesome, and I'm super excited about it. But part of this goal of starting the YouTube channel was to just start to get out these bite-sized pieces of money wisdom, so that if somebody wants to go immerse themselves in my program in the 12 weeks and like you did, and really learn the skill in a very sequential, organized, immersive way, that 12 weeks you've learned everything you really need to know about money, that's great. But for those that aren't maybe quite ready for that, it's learning these little sound bites about money that that's my goal. If you listen to these, you'll start to put these pieces together to be able to start improving your financial situation bit by bit.
I love this. And I really appreciate your honesty and vulnerability. And there's an element of strategic honesty here in sharing, hey, I struggle with this thing too. And you know what? This is the exact same thing. And the self-talk's impacting you. And you talk about this moment where you see what you're doing to yourself with your own stories that you're telling yourself, and something has changed and an amazing opportunity is opening up. And I can't wait to see how this channel grows and your message spreads. And I think that what we could do with the rest of this podcast, you opened with an amazing story. And I feel that what would be really valuable for you in these coming months for the YouTube channel, and maybe something you could bring into your talks or webinars, is addressing some of these limiting beliefs, just like what you experienced with YouTube, but something that you could teach in a YouTube video. Like, what are these same things happening? And you listed a few of them here that if we don't have content for them already, the one that I most deeply relate to, and I have stories on for sure, is I remember having an agency, and I'm still like somewhat of a recovering agency owner, because I had maybe 8 to 10 stay-at-home moms across the country, and I was 100% running on the I'm going to make more money to solve all of my problems thing. And somehow I would make more money and get more clients, and we would promise bigger projects, and we would need to bring on more copywriters, and the things would balloon, and I would just feel all this money like leaking out, and then you would have to grab this next big bunch. And then here's a story moment. This will probably be in a speech one day. I was walking down a street, and it was early spring in 2020, maybe just late February, early March, before most of the other stuff happened. And I get a phone call, or I get a text from one of my junior copywriters. And everybody on my team is a maximalist, except for me. I'm a very minimalist, but they're like writing huge sales pages. And she sends me a message saying, Kyle, I know you just asked for a 20-page sales page, but I wrote you a 50-page sales page. Isn't that awesome? And I was like, I'm not sure. And then I got a call from my designer, and she said, Kyle, your copywriter sent me a 50-page sales page, and we budgeted for a 20, and you're paying me by the hour. And I realized like something was really wrong about how I was managing myself, my money, and my things. And I can remember this. It's still at this time what the choice was. Well, I'm going to go travel to all these events in April and make a bunch more money, and that will solve things. And then everything changed, and I was unable to travel. But it's just something that's near and dear to my heart, and I think it's one of the biggest blind spots and things that would keep somebody from engaging with money, like you suggest, just in the same way that you talked about with YouTube. When we can finally have the conversation that there's never enough money until what, but there's a perspective shift here, right?
Yeah, there is. And answering the question, how much money is enough, I think is one of the most important questions we can really ask ourselves and answer, because there's so many layers to it. It's a very simple question, but once you ask it, you start saying, well, how much is enough? And how do I determine how much is enough? And where do I start? And is it a million, 10 million, 100 million, a billion? And we don't even know a starting place, but there's a very easy formula for helping us get to that number. And we can get to that number that just gives us clarity and gives us certainty and confidence. And then we can create a pretty simple, plan and strategy for how to hit these very simple numbers. But we don't have a starting point. We don't have an ending point. We don't have any milestones in between, because we don't approach this thing, money is this topic that there's something to learn, something to know, and something to figure out. And again, like, it just goes back, as long as I can make enough, I'll be fine. And without understanding, it's more complicated than that. But yeah, just always chasing the money is kind of the recipe for dissatisfaction. Like, if we can't ever be satisfied, and no matter when that goalpost keeps moving, because we've not done this exercise of how much money's enough, it puts us in this perpetual state of never enough, never satisfied, not good enough. And then we have to go work harder, and we have to do more. We have to take more risk. And it's just a real downward spiral if we never get a hold of it. And it's just, life is so much easier when we know our numbers, and when we know how to manage our money, and we know how much money is enough, and we know how much money we need to earn, and we've got a good spending plan, and we know how much money we need to invest, and we know at what age that we can be financially free. Again, it just removes so much of this anxiety around money, because most of the anxiety around money comes from the lack of clarity,
For
and
sure.
just it's all the lack of clarity. So that's the biggest gift we can give ourselves, is just to give ourselves the clarity around our numbers and start learning the basics and the fundamentals, just what I call the first principles of money, so that we can get control of this thing and it doesn't wreak so much havoc on our life.
So even I'll be transparent and I can like look back on myself and I even see the shadow of this now. But being aware of there was like at least 7 different kinds of numbers listed there, and we've spent a lot of time practicing relating to these. And if there was somebody out there who was like, "Oh my God, I'm still a dummy," it's definitely not me, Kyle. It's somebody else. And what if there was just one number that I could learn? What would be one number that I could start? What would be one place that I could look to begin relating and just peek in and know that it's safe without having to overhaul everything, but just the baby step in this practice?
Well, I'll give like 5 numbers. So
Yeah.
just a very simple formula. And the first one starts with, it goes back to the Stephen Covey quote, start with the end in mind. And so that's the first step, is we have to land on, when it comes to how much money is enough, it's really how much net worth is enough, or how much wealth is enough. And the question is it $1 million net worth? Is it $10 million net worth? And that's the first number you have to land on. And a very kind of easy rule of thumb to be able to determine how many millions you need is, um, that for every $50,000 of kind of asset income is $1 million of net worth or investments. And so if you have $1 million, let's say in the stock market, and you pull out 5%, which is called the 5% rule, that's $50,000. So if you think you can live off $50,000 a year passive income, or that's your goal, then you need $1 million of assets. If you think you can live off $100,000, you need 2 million. So you can use that very simple rule of thumb to tell yourself, how many millions do I need? Now I say the starting point is always 1 million. Like if you can break 1 million, once you break 1 million, it starts compounding and growing. So a big portion of the rest of the millions start taking care of themselves. So the first goal, in my opinion, should always be, I want to be a net worth millionaire.
Mhm.
And it starts there. So that's the first number but it needs to be set in stone, and it has to be a commitment. It has to be a mission. It has to be a drive. It's a flag. Because that flag, that goalpost then determines everything else. But until you have this goal of being a millionaire, you'll probably never become one. So that's the starting point, is that number.
Before we go on to the other numbers, I just want to say how nice it is to have one number and how simply you laid it out. It's a math equation that I can do in my head. And even just in this small amount of time teaching it, that I can feel a little bit better and I can feel progress. And these are the effects that we want to create when teaching, more than like, okay, well, in order to really know how much you want, or how much, a year, we've really got to break into all of the budgets. We just can say, you give me enough credit to say, well, I think, this many grand will be good enough for me, without having the need to really. I know we do figure out like how to get to that number, but you present something simple and I feel a little bit more freedom from it.
Awesome.
And
Yeah. And that's it. Like, become a millionaire. Now, here's the thing, only 9% of Americans are millionaires. So, again, that to be a millionaire puts you in the top 10%. And that's why I'm like, strive to be the top 10% income, top 10% net worth. And that's $1 million. So start there. If you,
mhm.
like I said, if you want to extrapolate how many millions based on the 50,000, you can do that. The second thing is, the second number you're looking for is, how much does it cost to live my life? on an annual basis. And you need to know that number. And it's a very important number. Does your life cost 50,000 a year, 75,000 a year, 100,000 a year, 250 a year? But you have to know that number. So it's something else. Um, and figure it out. Very few people know how much money, how much their life costs on an annualized basis. And if they had to guess, if they're saying, "Hey, I earn $100,000 a year," we can probably guess that their expenses are 100,000 a year or $110,000 a year, because that's how it works. But
Mhm.
that's another number. You need to know how much does your annual life cost. So that's the second number. The third number is how much, if I'm going to become a millionaire, how much do I need to invest on an annual basis to become a millionaire in 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever your number is? I like to say use 20 years. So it's like, okay, I want to be a millionaire in 20 years. That's the slow plan. When we have a plan to say, hey, I need to invest let's say I need to invest $3,000 a month for 20 years to be a millionaire. I'm making up that number. But let's say that that's the case. Then it's like, okay, I want to be a millionaire. I have to save and invest $3,000 a month, or $36,000, $36,000 a year to do that. Now I know how much it costs to live my life. Now we can go to the final number and say, okay, if it costs me, try to do some math in my head, but let's keep some numbers easy again. Let's say it costs me $80,000 a year to live my life. That's my lifestyle. And let's just say I need to invest $20,000 a year to hit my millionaire target based on how long it's going to take to do it. So that means I have to earn $100,000 a year after tax to be able to live my $80,000 a year lifestyle and invest the $20,000 a year that is that it's going to take. So that's telling me right there, now I need to earn $100,000 a year. So it's just very simple math, and that tells you your earnings target in this case. But the whole takeaway there is, how much money is enough? $1,000,000. How much money do I need to invest on an annual basis? 20,000. How much does it cost to live my life? 80,000. So how much money do I need to earn after tax? $100,000. If we add, I don't know, 25% on top of that, that's $125,000. That means that's how much money I need to earn. So it's just very
Yeah.
simple. Those simple math and those
Oh no.
targets is, if we can figure those out, we can plan all of our kind of money strategy or money planning around hitting those numbers.
Amazing. I'd like to share some of the opportunities that I see within this knowledge and some new ways for you to frame this knowledge for the YouTube videos, for everybody listening in. And this is a concept that I talk a lot about. It's an idea of being descriptive versus prescriptive. When we know, like, okay, I need $20,000 to be able to save away, and what exactly we need to do to get that result, um, often there's a lot to process within it. And a lot of times what we want to know and understand is what happens of the freedom that is created as the result. So once we know this number, especially in the early stage of seeing a video, or within this, is like, what's possible now? And what I receive and what I hear and what I think you're really promising is, it's not how I know how much I need to make and how much I need to save. It means that at 5 o'clock, I'm able to relax and hang out with my dog and hang out with my kids because I know I've done enough today. And I finally have the ability to say no to the things that distract me, that I haven't been able to say no to because of this need for money that's undefined for me. And instead, I can say yes to the things that I truly value because I know how much my life costs. And and I know what my life is worth, and I know what my highest priorities are and what I really want to spend that money on. And this level of clarity and confidence is increasingly rare and valuable. And I would just stand for my belief in you and your power and your listeners and the need of this world, that is what we want to hear and be immersed in and believe in. And that's what you're promising, more than the formulas that get us to that.
Absolutely. The formula is just the way to get to, like you said, the place where when we know how much money's enough, it's like, hey, like you said, it's 5 o'clock. I can call it enough today.
Totally. But and there's so much more. And again, I want to reflect that you live it well right now. And I want to honor you. There's many stories you can tell, and you've come a long way to become who you are, and not just a master of money, but a master of yourself and your health and relationships. And so it's been a real honor exploring some of this. And I hope that there are some new and fresh ideas that you can take into your talks and your YouTube channel. Do you have any closing thoughts for us today? And where can we go to learn more about you, and start digging in? We know the YouTube channel already.
Yeah, I mean, the closing thought is I just invite, there's so much shame around money, fear around money, anxiety around money, fights around money, conflict around money, depression around money. Just money really does wreak so much havoc. And it's not just a lack of money, a lot of money causes many problems as well. So there's just, if we can just, I just invite to take some time to learn about this topic. And like you said, it's not about mastering money for money's sake. It's mastering money so that we have this relationship with money that allows us to live the life that we want. Because money's what funds us, money's what gives us time, money's what gives us options, money's what gives us experiences. Money can enhance relationships. It can just do so much. So that's my only final piece of uh, anything is just I invite you to be curious, be curious to learn about this thing, because once we do, we can wipe out all the shame, we can wipe out all the fear, lack of confidence, all the things by learning a few things. And then yeah, where people find me at Krisstina Wise on my YouTube channel. And like I said, I'm super excited about this. I got over my fear. And I just have to say, Kyle, still, every time I record on Fridays, and every Friday I want to procrastinate and have an excuse not to do it, but I keep doing it because that's what to do. But it's just it's making me really happy to see the numbers slowly grow. And so if anybody does go to the YouTube and subscribes, or does a comment or a like, I would just so greatly appreciate it, because it even gives me the feedback of like, hey, you're doing the right thing and this information is really valuable and the world needs it. So anyway, I invite everybody to listen for their sake, and it helps me as well.
Brilliant. And I also want to say, as somebody who's gone through the Curbs program, that I really stand by what you're saying. And it is a challenging process, and there are lots of numbers to dive into. And this is an important pathway to freedom that I believe institutionally in many ways has been hidden from us, because it is a true avenue of power. And I'm extremely grateful to have you on the show, to have you as a collaborator and a creator. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Story Engine podcast, Krisstina.
Thank you so much, Kyle. I really appreciate it. Thank you.